Well, hello, 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 and welcome to Fixing the Leadership Problem with me, Shayna James, your host. And today is a special day. It is April 10th, and today, in just a few hours, we are going to be seeing and experiencing another major feat for science and humanity. And that is Artemis II is going to be making history. And I've been thinking about this in an extremely, geeked out personal way. One, because as an electrical engineer, my degree is in engineering. I love science and I love about all of the wonderful possibilities that Artemis gave us. But I've also been thinking about and remembering when I was a little girl in elementary school, and there was this huge scientific experience that many of us saw live, which was the Challenger shuttle. And we watched it in school live because there was a teacher that was on the shuttle. And I remember sitting there with such awe as to how did you get something so heavy up into the sky and get it to leave Earth's orbit and Earth's atmosphere? But that day with Challenger shuttle was so difficult because it exploded. So truthfully, y'all, I have totally been praying for Artemis for these last 10 days that they've been gone. And what struck me and still does strike me even now is that these moments that are creating such great scientific feats are not just about technology. You know, they're really about leadership. On one hand, you have Artemis 2 with the precision, the preparation, all of the progress that was made. And on the other hand, you have Challenger that was a tragedy that absolutely shook the entire world. Two moments in space history, both shaped not by the technology, but by leadership decisions. And there were a few things that, as I sat back and I thought about this, and we think about how we can fix the leadership problem, I started thinking about four little lessons. And the first lesson I thought about is that small decisions in our businesses and in our journey as managers and leaders have huge consequences. When you look back at Challengers, one of the biggest takeaways is that there were a lot of warning signs. There were concerns that were raised early on, but people kind of just kept like, we'll be okay. They kept ignoring them. They were acting in a way that they really should not have been about, such a vital and important situation when it comes to launching people into space. And, I had the privilege of working in an industry right out of college as a radio frequency design engineer. And a part of my job was to create tools and technologies that would exist on, systems that would work when it comes to defense systems. And we were very thorough, I thought, on things to make sure that stuff would function well, but there was always something that would come up. And if you don't address those things that come up, it can have huge, massive consequences later in your business. And this is what happens in organizations all the time. People see issues. They either don't know who to talk to about them, or they do talk to them about them and they feel like their concerns get ignored. And leaders even delay action on them. Leadership isn't just about these big decisions you make. It's about what do you do with the small ones too? How do you handle the small little details? How do you handle the details when a customer tells you that something's not working in your process or in your product? How do you handle the details when a person on your staff tells you this can't be done in that time, but we need to get it done, and so we're going to force it and push it, without understanding that this person is not being lazy, but there really are some things that need to be corrected? So the first thing I learned is that small decisions can have big consequences. So I need to pay attention to even the little decisions that happen as a leader. The second thing I learned is that If we're clear in our communication, it will save teams, it will save money, it will save heartache. In missions like Artemis II, communication has to be clear, it has to be direct, it has to be taken sensitive because uh, seriously, because lives are at stake. And if a communication tends to break down, people don't feel heard and the risk will go up. Over time, it will feel like that person is being suppressed and they won't want to give you any value or information or feedback that can really help grow your team. Team members not speaking up or leaders not listening or having unclear expectations are all signs that disconnects are happening and that communication isn't happening. And if your team doesn't feel safe speaking up, you don't have communication. What you actually have is you have a lot of places where risk can happen and problems can show up later. So the second thing that I learned is that clarity and communication will save a team. I mean, I think about the conversations that must have happened to create the perfect environment for Artemis 2 to happen, to create the perfect environment for the 4 people who are on inside of that capsule to be the right fits, not because they were perfect, but because there was a lot of communication between them and between the engineers and between the managers and between the leaders and the project managers to make such a mission happen. And the third thing I learned is that you cannot lead under pressure if you're not prepared for it. I'm just going to have to say that one again. You can't lead under pressure if you have not prepared for the pressure. The level of preparation that goes into Artemis 2 is absolutely incredible. And they didn't wait until they got to space to figure it out. And that, I think, is what's drives me kind of it baffles me a little bit when it comes to leadership, because it's almost like we wait until we get into pressure situations to say, well, I'll learn and I'll figure it out when I get there. And hey, I'm all for jumping off a cliff and building your wings on the way down and figuring stuff out. But I also realize that the more you can figure out ahead of time, the more you can prepare for difficult situations. And I understand you can't prepare for everything, but the more prepared you are, the better the situation will go, the easier you'll be able to get through it, the more you'll be able to handle it. Because so many people are promoting managers without giving them training. And that is something you can actually prepare for ahead of time. You can actually train people before they become managers. You can actually train people early on while they're managing. And you can actually train people before they get to these deep, high pressure situations. It will help you stop having leaders just figure it out. And what it'll do is it'll put you in a position like many on the Artemis staff. Let me tell you something. They have trained for all kinds of missions. They have trained for all kinds of setbacks and technicalities and things that aren't going to work. Why? Because they understand that if they train for that, they are more prepared for a problem that comes up. And we often throw people in positions in leaderships without training them for bad communication, training them for projects running over schedule and over budget, training them for how to delegate difficult conversations and difficult projects to people who, let's be honest, don't even want to do that work anyway. But that can all happen if we prepare. See, it's hard to rise to the moment in these situations when you're not prepared for it. I will say this: you don't rise to the moment, you fall to your level of preparation. So that's my third lesson. And then my fourth and final lesson is that you have to trust your team or everything is going to keep coming back to you. No one person runs a mission like Artemis 2. In fact, you've got to have a huge network of teams that are responsible for critical mission decision making in time situations. And if you don't trust those people to make those decisions, let's say it's a critical decision and you only got 4 or 5 seconds to make it and you haven't prepared for it, and you feel like, well, let me go call my boss, but my boss is, they're in another meeting dealing with another situation, so we've got to wait. Y'all, that 4 or 5 seconds is over. And things can really blow up. And for many of us, we don't train leaders with decision making power, or they don't know the hierarchy of when to come and talk to me about something. So they will come and talk to you as a leader about everything, especially those of you who are founders of businesses and organizations. Let me just tell you something. People will call you about every little detail because they think that you have to have the final decision. And some of that is because we have created those cultures as leaders, but others of it is that we have not told them these are decisions that you can make. We have not given them a decision matrix or decision making tree. And those are some of the things that we do here at Shanna James Consulting by helping people fix the leadership problem is we help create leadership operating systems that include decision making tools to help you so that you as a founder or a manager don't have to be the bottleneck. You don't have to micromanage people because if everything still has to go through you, you can't scale your team. So strong leadership builds people who can carry out the mission with you, not just on you. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping today, I'm excited that we'll get to watch Artemis return back into Earth atmosphere this afternoon. And it reminds me as I think about this, what's possible when leadership is done well. What can really happen in your organization or in your business if you can lead well, if you can be prepared for leadership. And while most of us aren't leading space missions, we are leading people, teams, and decisions that really do matter. And this is why I like to talk about fixing the leadership problem. Because when leadership starts to break down, the consequences may not be on the global scale like with Artemis II, but they really are real. And if you're a manager or leader, one of the biggest places this shows up is in how you handle difficult conversations. Look, I have a class coming up in the next few weeks that really helps to deal with and helps you to grow in this area. I'm going to put a QR code up in the corner, and all you've got to do is scan that QR code to find out more about my class, Navigating Difficult Conversations and Difficult Relationships with Clarity, with Confidence, and with Emotional Intelligence. Hey, we have an early bird rate. It is going to be ending soon, but I hope that you can get on here and find out more about this class. Hey, like, follow, and subscribe for more amazing content on how to fix the leadership problem. I am your host, Shana James, and I am looking forward to helping you fix the leadership problem. Have a great day.